with souls and granted something to each of them. However, it is in his mystical life that he authorized the awliya to consult him. As men of God do in having conversations with him. You see, if Shaykh Tijani grants you a power, if he wants to do something, that power will stop working until he completes his task. When we were talking in the living room, I told them that when someone wants me to pray for them, and I know that Shaykh Tijani has something to do with what is happening to them, I will pray for Shaykh to do what is best for him. And when it comes to Shaykh, you have to know your limit. I gave them an example. I told them, if Shaykh showed you in the batin that if you get out of the house, something bad will happen to you, when you see him, will you have the courage to ask him for permission to leave the house? If you see him before you leave the house, you should ask him to do what is best for you, and he will tell you that the best thing is to stay in the house. This happened to me with our brother, who led the committee, who is Katim Sal. When he was sick and went to the hospital, I paid him a visit. Before leaving, I knew his days were numbered. Moreover, he even told me about a dream he had about Barzakh. When I looked at him, I put my hand on top of his head and said, Ya Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani. And he appeared with his light. I told him, I wanted you to let him live a little longer. He replied, I also need him in Barzakh al-Maktum. But since I told you that I will always grant you your wishes, let's do this. Come back tomorrow and recite Fatiha on top of his head, and I will grant you this wish. The next day when I returned, the hospital was barricaded. His wife told me that no one is allowed to visit patients today. When Dr. Mawa informed me about his passing, I wasn't surprised. It's a teaching. When I went home, I realized that it was Shaykh Tijani who was behind all this. I meditated on it because I could have used my mystical power to pass through the walls. But Shaykh forbade his disciples to perform miracles. When Muhammad Damrawi performed miracles to transport the camel, Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani forbade him. When I went home, I said to myself, Shaykh Tijani is so kind that he did not want to reject my prayer by creating this whole situation. One who knows Shaykh will always listen and carry out his orders. This is how I behave with him. This is how I behave with him. And you all know it. Few days ago, I told Dauda and others that you see the list he had of the caliphs. He recently activated button number 1, and if he doesn't pause it, you will soon see the consequences. It's his hal. If he wants, he can activate and pause a button, and if he wants, he can activate a button and accelerate it. Anyone who knows Shaykh Tijani Sharif will take his rosary, perform his wazifa, and listen to his instructions. In Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani, we cannot even call it exigency. But he loves willpower. If you wish to become his friend in his mystical life and consult him, arm yourself with willpower. But if you want him to lose interest in you, then like willpower, he will soon stop talking about you. The disciple must know how to organize his life according to his reality, because no one can understand the system in which his hal state operates. When we were performing wazifa earlier, I presented him with a file from the Hadaratul Ilahiyya, which concerns one individual. I told him that it's a failure. He told me it's not a failure, it's a lack of willpower. The file doesn't concern you, it concerns one man of God. He entered an environment in Ghaib and didn't have authorization. Sometimes a person may practice zikr of a name of God until he goes to places where he is not allowed. When this happens, if Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani does not show mercy, his soul may be destroyed. I told him, someone appeared to him in a dream and gave him a name of God. The latter performed the zikr until his file appeared at the Hadaratul Ilahiyya. And if we don't ask Mawlaya Shaykh Ahmad Tijani to intercede, his soul may be destroyed. And the name of God that he recited, a great wali gave it to him. I told Shaykh Tijani that this file is a failure. He told me no, it's a lack of willpower. Because it has been 7 days since he attended a Wazifa session, but instead chose to enter in a spiritual retreat. Sheikh told me it's never a failure, it's a lack of willpower. I asked him to help him, and he ordered an angel to recite إِنَّا فَتَحْنَا لَكَ فَتْحًا مُبِينًا until يَغْفِرَ لَكَ اللَّهُ مَا تَقَدَّمَ مِنْ ذَنْبِكَ وَمَا تَأَخَّرَ. To tell you, Ghaib is full of processes and has its own realities. The destruction of a soul for someone who worships God can annihilate all his previous works. And this has happened to people who are very famous. Some made mistakes, some needed orientation, and others even harmed their followers because of it. This is why the men of God always let Shaykh Tijani know when they possess these kind of files. Nevertheless, regarding the mystical life of Mawlaya Ahmad Tijani, all interactions that the men of God have with him occur during Wazifa sessions. As they said, it has more warranty. When you ask them to tell Mawlaya Ahmad Tijani something, they wait until the Wazifa ends to pray for the latter. Keeping this in mind is an obligation. But you are lucky because you do not completely master Mawlaya Ahmad Tijani, but you are at least afraid of him. I know this. When I did the audio the other day, many of you didn't sleep. There was someone, I could see him from here. He went to bed to try to fall asleep around 1:46 a.m. He thought of the list and jumped out of his bed. He went to perform ablution and pray 2 rakah. And I was here in Medina Shaykh. And I said, these people really fear him. It is said that when you accompany your guide into a dark tunnel, you should carefully follow his footsteps. Mawlaya Ahmad Tijani Sharif is the one who knows the way. This is why what he tells us is what reassures us. This is what is called a mystical life. As there are only 2 branches, Nuraniyu and Zulmaniyu. The domain of Shaykh Tijani Sharif revolves around Nuraniyu, and he said to ignore Zulmaniyu, because Zulmaniyu gives birth to traditions and others.
Prophecy, prophecy, his time has come, his time has arrived. The one Rasulullah has told us about this mission at the end of time.